isolation from which the patent has been filed. These are the few achievements of Dr. Ashim Gupta sir, and so much, sir. Now may I request sir to please chair the session. Please present the
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pooja, for the kind introduction. And I would like to thank Dr. Jha, Nikitaji, and other panelists for having me as a part of this amazing session we're going to do today. So thank you. So Nikitaji tasked me to give a presentation on a very interesting topic on plagiarism. Question comes, is plagiarism a reality or a myth? So before I really jump into what plagiarism is, what it's all about, first, I would like to start with what leads to scientific research misconduct. So I came across this research article, which was actually published from India. And in this study from Pondicherry, they did an interview of 30 research scholars to find out why do researchers perceive research misbehaviors. What they found is that 35% of those scholars said they do it due to unavailability of adequate funds, they have pressure from research supervisors, or they are desperate to publish research articles. Results actually were not surprising to me based on my own personal experiences and my communication with my peers. And I came across this another study about publication pressure versus ethics in research and publications. So what this paper states that there is pressure on the medical fraternity to publish in terms of quantity, thereby compromising the overall quality of their work. The question we all want to ask is why there is so much pressure on the researchers and the medical students and our residents. So official bodies governing the medical professionals, they have linked quantity of publications with the career growth. These rules were actually meant to promote the research, but they actually led to increased stress and lowered the quality of research as well as the publications. One interesting paper while looking more into this topic, I came across this editorial which talks about characteristics of retracted editorial articles in the biomedical literature. This paper identified and analyzed the retracted editorials. This found that 25 out of 33 that were selected for this analysis were published between the year 1998 and 2021. So they did cover about 13 to 14 years of a time frame, which is big. What they found that the major reason for retraction is plagiarism and data related issues. And 1 out of every 5 were actually funded by the external agencies. And the average time between publication and retraction is about 2.5 years. What I found most interesting, or in fact, I can say most annoying, is that these editorials at least should be devoid of research and scientific misconduct. I have seen this happening in review articles, in original articles, but this paper specifically and the outcomes of it, in fact, were a surprise for myself too. So now talking about the 3 cardinal sins of research misconduct, it's falsification, fabrication, and plagiarism. Before we jump into plagiarism, it's important to understand what do we mean by these 3 terms. So what is falsification? Falsification is the changing or omission of research results or data to support claims, hypotheses, and other data. It can also include the manipulation of research instrumentation, materials, or processes, and manipulation of images or representations in a manner that distorts the data or reads too much between the lines can also be considered falsification. Next, what is fabrication? Fabrication is the construction and or addition of data, observations, or characterizations that never occurred in the gathering of data or running the experiments. Fabrication can occur when filling out the rest of the experiment runs. Claims about results need to be made on complete data sets. This is what we assume we do, where claims made based on incomplete or assumed results is a form of fabrication. So now we know what falsification is, what fabrication is. Now we'll move on to the topic of this presentation, plagiarism. I came across these two papers, so most of the facts I'm going to talk about are based upon these two studies published in Biomedical Engineering Society journal. So what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is act of using another person's words or ideas without giving them the proper credit. Citations and permissions are the fundamental requirements for authoring an article. What's the primary focus of plagiarism? Unauthorized use of already published materials, and intention to do it is what matters most. So question is, can plagiarism be unintentional? Answer is yes. Example, what if a publisher publishes the same work repeatedly? Then does it called plagiarism? Answer is no. This is duplication and not plagiarism. However, most of the plagiarism which is done knowingly, it's intentional. So there are two steps in the intention. Number one, desire to steal. Number two, original source was purposefully concealed. There are certain kind of plagiarisms which are very hard to detect. Original author's content is significantly modified but not acknowledged or referenced. Even the harder one is the figure plagiarism. People modify images without properly citing them. And the one which is pretty much, you can call it, is impossible to detect is the translational plagiarism, in which context from one manuscript or one figure is completely translated to another language. So there are 5 basic rules which people can use to avoid plagiarism as much as possible. First, do not copy from others. That is previous papers or even your own previous papers. So copying your own context from previously published material is considered self-plagiarism. So you cannot even do that. Hey, I wrote this paper in the past, it's my context, I'm going to use the same language in my future paper. No, you cannot do that. You can rephrase it nicely, but you still have to cite the originally sourced article. Form your own thoughts from your own brain. Third, cite everything you cannot rephrase. Sometimes it is okay. There are certain terminologies, certain sentences which cannot be rephrased. So it's a good idea. What you can do is you can say, oh, this paper from this et al. Stated, and then in superscripts or in some parentheses, you can say their exact statement, and it's very important to cite the actual source. And as I stated, avoid self-plagiarism and cite any figures or diagrams that are not yours. Lastly, and I'm sure most of you who have experienced publishing papers, most of the journals will even ask you that, hey, if you are using some figure or a table from an already published paper, do you have the permission to do so? And some journals even will ask you a copy of the same. So the 5th rule is ask for permission when using unpublished data, figures, or table, and it even applies for the published materials. There are more rules which you can try. You can check your paper with more than one online tool for plagiarism, such as Turnitin. There are other ones. You can use some grammar tools like Grammarly, and you can also check rephrasing tools like Quillbot. I'm not an expert on all these softwares, but later Nikita ji can probably tell you more tools to check for these kind of errors. So a question I wanted to put on this slide, which I already touched on. We always talk about, hey, can I rephrase somebody's work? Or I copy pasted a text from somebody. Is that plagiarism? Answer is yes. Now, how about using someone's idea, not their words, without citing them? Is this considered plagiarism? Answer is yes. Even copying somebody's idea is plagiarism. So even if you use somebody's idea in your paper, you still have to cite it. So there are certain recommendations that all unacceptable behaviors such as plagiarism, duplicate submissions, and disclosures, they should be understood and avoided. Always provide credit to your sources, even if they are informal. As I said, if you are talking about somebody's idea, you may have had an oral conversation with them. You still have to cite the source. Or if you copy paste something from a website, you have to reference that website. Always describe anything in your own words. Do not simply rephrase or paraphrase things. Remember, another's idea still requires citation. So again, going back on same points, and everybody should remember these, that any misrepresentation of any material as your own original work or idea is plagiarism. There is no small amount of plagiarism that is acceptable. Even if you do one phrase out of 1,000 paper, it is still unacceptable. Plagiarism is not limited to intentional acts, can be committed accidentally. Thus, it's very important that if you stand in one of those minor cases, hey, plagiarism was not intentional, it just happened. That's why it's recommended before you submit your work to any journal, check it using different softwares like Turnitin or something, just to make sure that everything is cited, everything is referenced, and it's not being duplicated or copied pasted from something that you did not know of. Importantly, plagiarism exists across all domains, not more acceptable in one field than in other. So you cannot say, hey, in medical, it's more acceptable than humanities or social sciences. It goes throughout the board. Even if another person authorizes you to reuse their material, it's still considered plagiarism if you do not cite the source. And this is again goes back to if you even take permission from somebody with journals ask that, hey, can I use your figure? If they say yes, then if you use it, you still have to cite the original source where it was published. Any published material that you reuse must be cited and acknowledged. Redrawn with changes should include a citation and the words derived from, based on, modified from. So that way people know that there is an existing source which was used as a foundation to create this new piece of art. So I won't stretch too much into it and would like to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to present on this topic. And I would actually ask the chairperson and another panelists to pitch in and use some of the time to provide their 2 cents on if I missed on anything and what are other important things people should know about plagiarism. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashim Gupta, for such a lucid and informative talk. The important question, I think, what...
Hello.
Pooja, your voice is breaking.
Hello.
Yes.
Ma'am, now clear?
Yes, you're clear.
Well, I just wanted to
Sir.
make a mention of
Yes, sir.
the psychological background of this evil, if I can at all say this is an evil, which it is really, that he said that the pressure behind publishing your research work, especially to the younger postgraduates or younger researcher, is a very important moot point worth consideration. So we have to think in those terms, how this pressure is released to some extent so that the researcher is not hell-bent on copying the materials. Dr. Asim?
Sorry, I missed it, Dr. Jha. What did you say? I apologize.
Oh, no. I simply wanted to say that you made out a very wonderful point. The psychological aspect, why the researchers are under pressure. And it is because of that pressure, you said, that this evil invariably takes place.
Yes, Dr. Jha, and I agree, and that's why I agreed with most of those facts I presented. Initially, I thought this is the case in India, but unfortunately, this is the worldwide case. I have students that I mentor from Ireland. I mentored students at different levels, starting from undergraduate, graduate, to medical students, residents, even clinical fellows. And I have seen that continuous pressure on them from their peers. And you will be surprised, even from higher level residents and fellows, where you will expect that they understand these things. I have gotten manuscripts from them which are 90% plagiarized. So in those environments, I personally always tell my students that, hey, take your time, but do not do these unethical mistakes. Reason is, if you even catch it early, it's still good. We prevented a damage from happening. But when I saw that editorial that, hey, I published something, went online on Scopus, PubMed, people read it for 2.5 years. And after that, the journal takes it down and they puts the reason that it was plagiarized or it's bad for the reputation of all the co-authors involved in that paper. So such kind of behaviors should definitely be not promoted. And same thing I ask my peers who mentor students humbly is that we understand that it's important to publish, but again, we have to teach the next generation that, hey, publish the correct way. And we should be rather supportive of them and helping them the best we can, rather than, hey, I need this paper done in a week.
Do we have sufficient data to substantiate that younger generation are more into it than the senior persons?
It's a good question, and I think I will personally do some literature search on it to see if somebody has done a study like that. If not, I think it would be worth doing an anonymous survey or something. I'm sure nobody wants their name out and make their mentors mad, but I'm sure we can definitely do some kind of anonymous survey and collect some data on it.
Sir, we also want to do this survey through IESRF, because what happened is I interacted with huge number of researchers and editors, reviewers, everyone. So what I find is that actually there is a bulk pressure of the institution to publish the research, right? Just like to getting the PhD degree, we must have to publish for this much number of articles. For getting promotion, we have to must publish this number of articles. So what happened is, nowadays the problem is that the publication is to be shared on the pressurizing way. So that's why the younger generation is also, I mean, they are also one of the big numbers for the this particular field. So that's why the problem is that. So we also trying to have the analysis of this research which Dr. Asim sir had shared right now. Yeah, Dr. Pallavi madam.
I would like to add that things are changing now. As you said, for promotion, a set number of papers were required earlier. But I appreciate the efforts which are taken by NMC, that they have reduced the number of papers required for a promotion. They have re-revised the indexing in which the papers need to be published. So this will help in improving the quality of the articles which are being published, rather than the number of the articles which are being published.
Right.
So things are changing gradually. And
But Nikita, I would like to say one more thing. Simply saying that pressure of publication is there cannot justify your plagiarism part. See, there are lots of course available. You can go them. Then, as Dr. Pallavi ma'am has said, their number of papers have been reduced. So you can have the ample time. You can just go research and how to write a paper. There is no excuse
Exactly.
that you cannot do something wrong that is ethically wrong and not acceptable, because if your paper is plagiarized and it has been published, then you can be barred from further publication for many years, and legal action can also be taken. So if you are doing writing something, then you should do a proper research and then start writing. There is nothing like no excuse for this.
Yeah, exactly, sir. Sir, what I shared is my personal
Correct.
perspective with the people I'm interacted to regular basis. But you are saying very correct thing that we
So,
have to
ma'am, I
increase
can
the
want to,
writing. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Even my own
I
PGs are
want to
doing
just
a
want
lot
to
of
add
Yes,
problem
ma'am.
with plagiarism is that even the mentors and guide, they are sometimes not aware of this plagiarism. That is a basic fault also. They don't guide the students also. And
Yes.
the students tend to write an article which is plagiarized. And when the mentors check it, even they don't know that this is plagiarized because they are not aware. Like now we are having such workshops. Most of the time, the researchers, the guides are not aware themselves. That is a basic problem most of the time. And Dr. Ashim, the article of Dr. Behel you shared, he's my friend. I'll definitely tell him. He'll be happy that his article has been acknowledged. I'll tell him.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation. I'll tell him.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
He will be on feeling happy. I'll tell him. Okay.
Great.
Thank
So
you.
I
So
see
wonderful
some
presentation.
questions
Wonderful.
posted on the chat, and I think we can all go over them and answer these for the
Yes.
audiences. So
Yeah.
first one is
Yes.
from Ms. Rachna Wadhwa. Sir, when we are writing articles chapter and we directly quote guidelines in a brief way, answer is yes, you can quote guidelines. Important thing is you have to cite the source where you took them from. Other one is, does the manuscript article sent to any of the index journals to be sent along with the plagiarism reports? Answer is no. It's actually your own ethical and moral duty to make sure you did not copy anything. And most of the journals and publishers these days utilize their own softwares where they will do their own check before they even send the manuscripts out for the peer review. And in case they detect anything copy pasted, they will be either rejecting it or they will send it back to you and tell you to go ahead, rephrase and cite properly and then resubmit the manuscript. Another one is, will self-citation along with the proper citation but using large amounts of data from the previous paper would be plagiarism? It's in the gray area. If you are using a self-citation, yes, you have to cite it, you have to rephrase it in your own words again, which I understand is hard, but you have to do it. But if you are using the data set from the previous paper, it gets very sketchy with some journals if it's been published. However, if you are using the same data set in a different context, then you can use it. But again, you have to cite it and you have to really clarify it very properly that this data set has been used in this publication and I'm using this data set in a different context. And just take a couple more minutes, I'm actually dealing with this same kind of issue with some of my collaborators who published a paper in a journal that I'm a guest editor for. And I personally think they should be allowed to be sent out to for peer review, but a lot of editor thinks otherwise. The reason for that is, in today's era, yes, plagiarism is a big thing, but we also have to acknowledge that when we talk about original studies, getting funding is getting very hard day by day. And if somebody says that, hey, I have this data set and it can be used in two contexts and they are citing it properly, it is okay to do so. I do not expect or want any scientist or any clinician to waste the funds to literally give me the same amount of data that they have generated previously. So it is okay to do that as far as it's properly cited. Next one is, also, will it be plagiarism if the same paper presented in two different journals in two different systems? Because I came across many such duplicate papers. So it is actually not plagiarism, it's called duplication. And it can actually have bad consequences for the authors, because if a big publishing group, let's say, finds it that you duplicated the data intentionally, they can actually blacklist you from ever publishing in their list of journals, and it's considered an unethical practice. So no one should be doing that. There is one, is Salami publication come under plagiarism for one data set? I do not know, Dr. Avinav, what Salami publications are. Anybody can help me here?
Yes, I'm Dr. Hannah. Great talk, Dr. Asim. Salami publication is where they take pieces from different articles, put it all together and present it as their own original research work. And this is very unethical and to be avoided.
Yes. Okay, if that's the case, yes, I agree with you 100%. No, you cannot do that. It's still considered plagiarism because you did not generate the data on your own. I would rather do a review article then, or say a commentary or a communication kind article instead of calling it an original article. And then you can acknowledge where you took all the data from, you try to put pieces together and came up with a new story of your own.
Yeah,
So
actually,
now,
Salami publication, basically what you do is you do one study, and in the study there are several subsegments, and you publish each and every segment as a separate paper. So it is basically slicing.
okay.
Yeah, so slicing, for example, if you are, let us say, studying the effect of the effects of, let us say, a particular drug. So what you do, you can slice the effects into cardiovascular effects and then publish a paper on it. Then you slice the effects into, let us say, kidney effects and then publish a different paper on it at various points in time in various journals, even though the entire study would have been conceptualized in a single format, that to study the effect of this particular drug on the human body. So it is just an example which I'm citing. So like this, several studies do undertake even now. I mean, even though they may or may not see the light of publication, but they are still done. And mainly this is because of, as Nikita ma'am has told, the pressure of publishing and getting more and more research articles to your name.
Okay, I have another interesting one here. If knowingly or unknowingly plagiarism happened, how we can correct it? What is the further step have to do? So this is a really good question. So yes, there are means to do it. So what you can do if you know there is an error or you plagiarize something, you want to correct it. So there is a way you can reach out to the editor or the editor-in-chief of the journal, and you can send an correction to and the exact title of your paper and do the changes, and then they can republish that and they will call it correction to this paper. And that way it will save you your prestige. And they will be more than happy to accept it, because sometimes they will just take it. Yes, it happened unknowingly. Authors found it now. They corrected the error. And now we have an updated version online. Okay, another one I'm going to need help from. Can you plagiarize questions?
No.
Interesting question.
Yes.
Definitely can be done, sir.
Can you expand on it? So Dr. Sharan is the one asking, so he understands it, and other audiences too, including me.
Even sir, I have seen it in many papers, the MCQs are plagiarized. Just the sequence and the wordings are changed and they are kept from one paper to another paper. That is very much possible.
Okay. So Dr.
And
Sharan, yes, it is possible.
Even the question papers in the exams of the medical students, they are from one, copied from one, and that's just the language is changed and they are kept in another paper and the another university. So they are all the plagiarism.
There's another one from Dr. Mukesh, and I'm going to need everybody's insight on that one too. Plagiarism detector or software are costly and small town colleges won't afford. How to do checking them? So I think it's a very relevant question, and how we can help our colleagues and students make sure that yes, nothing is plagiarized. Dr. Jha, any insights from you?
Will you repeat it once again?
Plagiarism detector or softwares are costly and
Alright.
small colleges can't afford it. So how do students check for plagiarism if their college won't provide them with those software?
No, I think invariably at this researcher level, it will be difficult. But then the basic ethical question he should be conversant that he is not duplicating or he is not making a valid attempt at performing this plagiarism. So at his end, he should be clear, and then at the editor's end or the peer reviewer's end, they should be able to do it.
Sir, there is one more thing. There are many websites which gives the free software for plagiarism, but the only limitation is that you cannot check more than 250 or 300 words at a time. So you have to be patient. You can put your manuscript in various parts and you can check the plagiarism from there. Although they do not give the exact percentage of the plagiarism as we have from the Authenticate and the plagiarism detector, but you can at least know the what areas you need to be improved in your manuscript. It just gives you the head. So they are available freely on the net if you can try.
In addition, many journals, they have their own plagiarism detection software.
Yes.
Exactly.
So a person who is unable to, have these softwares, wherein, as Dr. Lalit correctly said, that the free softwares have word limit, they can use those free softwares, and then that can be submitted to the journals and request the editor that since I do not have these plagiarism software, you can check it and get back to me so that I can correct it. So I mean that can be done.
But what I wanted to say is that as an author, if you stick to the rules of the game, that
Yes,
things
sir.
are not to be done, because in your heart, you know you have done it or you have not done it. So the rule of conscience should be.
Agreed, and I appreciate that the question answer session with Dr. Asim Gupta sir is going well and very healthy discussion on the plagiarism question answer. But we are running short for the next lecture for the time.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we go ahead for that? Before that, I request Dr. Pallavi madam for the remarks and a plaque of appreciation to Dr. Asim.
Yeah, I would again, once again, I would like to thank Dr. Asim Gupta for such a wonderful talk. And I just want to give a small tip for the beginners who are attending this session. You do a thorough research, go through all related papers relevant to your topic, and then close everything, and then try to express yourself and write on your own. So when you will write on your own, there will be no plagiarism. So don't try to copy, try to express yourself. A beginner, so that will be very helpful. Somebody, somebody had asked how to read plagiarism. So you can try this tip and it works. Thank you.
And over and above this, if I can add, you write whatever you have written, leave it into your desk for maybe a few weeks, and then again with a refreshed mind, again go through it.
Yes. Yes.
You will improve.
So now, thank you so much, Asim Gupta sir, for such a wonderful presentation and for answering all our questions patiently. Now, the second speaker, I am introducing the second speaker of our today's event, that is Dr. Uma Hariharan ma'am. Dr. Uma Hariharan ma'am is an associate professor in anesthesiology and intensive care at Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, New Delhi. Ma'am has won several awards such as Outstanding Rounder Award of the College Blues, Best DNB Student Award, Best Paper Award that was held at ISSPCon at Ahmedabad, Best Speaker Debater Award at World Anesthesia Day in New Delhi 2004, Hall of Fame Award. Ma'am has total 111 national and international published articles and 11 book chapters published. Ma'am is an invited national faculty in various national conferences. So over to you, ma'am. Please present the presentation.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
I'll just start sharing my screen. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. So very, very good afternoon to all the esteemed panelists and moderators and the faculty out here, and all a warm welcome to all the people who have bothered to join this excellent workshop. And I really appreciate the efforts taken to highlight this particular aspect of research and publication, which is very much needed. That is the need of the hour in today's world of publishing. So my topic is methods to avoid desk rejection. And basically what happens is that most of us, we have a great enthusiasm when we are starting our publishing, and we gather all the information, we write the article, we write the references, we get everything done, and then we have a great amount of enthusiasm and a great amount of expectations when we submit this to a particular journal. We select the journal, we then submit it, and the corresponding author submits the article to the journal. But unfortunately, the article gets immediately rejected. So this is known as desk rejection. So this is basically defined as a desk rejection when your paper is turned down by a journal prior to even sending it out for review. So this is very disappointing even for established authors. Believe me, even now we have to face these things because of various, I would say, misses or various lapses in our formatting or our writing of the article, which leads to rejection at the editor's desk. And the most important thing which we must do is not to lose hope. We must analyze the reasons in detail, revise the manuscript again thoroughly, and resubmit it either to the same journal or somewhere else. So the only thing which should never be done is getting disappointed or dejected. So rejection does not mean dejection. So that is what is important. Now, the common reasons for desk rejection are basically that the manuscript, it fails the technical check or the technical screening, which is basically done by the editorial staff for basic requirements of the article as per the journal guidelines. The manuscript may not fall within the aims and scope of the journal. For example, if I'm an anesthetist and I'm submitting an anesthesia article, let us say in a dermatology journal, and that dermatology journal has absolutely nothing to do with that particular anesthesia aspect which I'm trying to highlight in my article. So, I mean, there is a total mismatch. And even in anesthesia, we have a lot of subdivisions. Like we have a neuroanesthesiology journal separately, we have an obstetric anesthesia journal separately. So all these things are very important to consider when we are submitting our article. And research topic which has been selected by the author for publishing or for doing research is of little significance in the current circumstances or for the journal. And the standard of writing, if the standard of writing is very low, for example, there are several grammar mistakes, several spelling mistakes, and several preposition and other conjunction mistakes in the English language, or there are several mistakes which convey that the language in which the author wants to convey a particular thing is not fully conveyed, or the exact opposite or the exact diametrically opposite message is conveyed, then it is something which we cannot afford. So that is one of the reasons why these articles, they get rejected. So there are several other things like missing details. For example, you have cited a legend or a figure in your presentation, but that is not there in the main article. So there are several reasons why these things occur. Now let us come to one by one. Most important is failed technical screening, and this is basically because of wrongly formatted files, because of insufficient resolution or missing information and incomplete submissions. For example, it so happens that I have clicked a particular photograph of a particular event or a patient which I want to submit, and the resolution is so very high that it cannot be uploaded, because sometimes most of the journals, they have a 5 MB or a 2 MB upper limit of uploading of images. So in the process, what I do is I reduce the resolution, but the resolution becomes so less that the picture quality or the picture is so much pixelated or so much of a problem that this leads to inappropriate, or let us say the image is not clear. So all these things are responsible for desk rejection. Now, if it is not, if the article or if the research manuscript is not within the scope of the journal, then it will be immediately desk rejected by the editor. And this is one of the most common things among inexperienced, or let us say the newer authors. And there is improper matching of manuscript with the journal in terms of the subject area, the type of the report, the type of the research, and the significance of the research done. Now, I will tell you a small example for this. For example, if I am writing, let us say, a correspondence article or some other article, and I submit it as a letter to editor, so that is not going to work. The format of letter to editor is completely different from the format of a case report or a opinion article. So these things are to be kept in mind when we are submitting to a journal. Different journals have different types of articles which they accept, like case reports, letter to editor, correspondence, opinion article, editorials, original research, etc. So all these things are important to consider when we are clicking on the drop-down menu and when we are submitting the particular article. So significance of the research done is also important, that it should match with the scope of the journal. Insignificant research topic. This is very important. As I told you just now, it must convey a new message. Most importantly, you see, everyone is now looking for a novelty. Any new thing will be published or accepted very soon. Anything which is old and already known, and a lot of research and a lot of work is already done on that, and we are already having a load of information on that particular subject, it is very, very unlikely that it will be accepted. But at the same time, let us say if I'm publishing something on, let us say, robotic surgery or something, related to artificial intelligence in anesthesia. So this is a relatively fair topic. And even in that, if I'm publishing something on, let us say, quantum physics in relation to, let us say, artificial intelligence. So all these things are very hi-fi topics which have very little articles published. So it will have a greater interest to the readers, and that is why the editors of the journals will be more interested to publish these kind of articles. And an unsuitable title, for example, the title is not conveying what the article wants to really tell to the audience. Low writing standards. Now, this is very common, especially being the editorial board, on the editorial board, and being the reviewer of several index journals in India and abroad. I have found this to be a very difficult problem to cope up, because in areas where there is no native English speaking editors or native English speaking professional people available for writing or for editing these articles, and it becomes very, very difficult, because English is not the language which is used in all countries of the world. And nowadays we are getting articles from all over the world. So we have to understand that improper English language usage, frequent grammatical errors, they cause distraction of the editors and the peer reviewers from the science behind the article. And this distraction could be one of the important reasons for rejection. So we can employ a professional proofreader and English language editor if we want, and we want to improve our chances of acceptance. So what are the 5 ways to ensure that manuscript avoids desk rejection pile? Now, I will come to each of the 5 things separately. The first one is a sloppy copy. Now, this is nothing but the various typos and grammatical errors and poor punctuation marks and spellings which are there, as I just told you about the language. Errors cause reviewer distraction, and rigorous proofreading of the manuscript by the main author, the co-authors, and the corresponding author is the only solution. And if that is not enough, you can employ professional proofreading services. Second is unclear message. As I previously told you, if the message from the title and the abstract and the conclusion is not clear, believe me, 90% of the articles will be rejected. So you have to have a clear abstract and breaking down of the message you want to convey into smaller chunks and into smaller or shorter sentences for ease of understanding. You see, you must be very clear in what you want the editor, the reviewer, and the audience to know. For example, if you are wanting to study basal cell carcinoma, you must be very clear that what exactly you want to study in that particular thing. You just can't be very vague. You just can't say research article on basal cell carcinoma. I mean, that is actually not making any sense. You have to have a proper scientific language and a proper aim and objective and a proper message, which is clear to all. Then third is inconsistency and inaccuracy avoidance. Inconsistency gives impression that your manuscript and research is not rigorous. It means that in the initial or beginning of the article, you are saying something, and by the end of the article, you are saying something else. Statistics must match with the discussion and conclusions. So if you are projecting some statistical data, you must be sure that what you are projecting is again reflected in the discussion, results, and conclusion section. The table legends must match to the figures. Repeating the checking of the manuscript again and again by all the authors is what will give the answer to this. And please take care of the inaccuracies in the figures and the numbers which you are quoting. For example, you are saying that in the beginning, I have recruited 722 patients, out of which 522 patients did not fit the criteria and only 200 patients were recruited. And in the end, you are saying that only 195 patients are being assessed. So where did those 5 patients go? So you must be able to answer about all the gaps in these numbers, right? So you can say that, yes, those 5 patients were lost to follow up, or did not opt for the study, or opted out in between, or maybe had some other problems. So that is why we had only 195 patients in the end. So this is very important. And make a list of hotspots or confusing points and discuss among your peers and other authors before submission. Unsuitability. Now, many journals have specific set of rules and criteria for the authors, and which can be, they're very strict about it. That is mainly because these journals are highly sought after and they have a very high impact factor, and they need to maintain that kind of standard for continued publication. And they know that even if they have even a single error in these kind of things, they will be heavily looked down upon, which is unacceptable for them. So the editors and the editorial staff are extremely careful about this. So use the journal finder to search which journal will suit your work, and read the guidelines for authors thoroughly for each and every journal, because it will be separate for most of them. Unclear impact or novelty. This I already highlighted. The editor will always look for something new in your research or report, and enclose a clear statement of purpose in your manuscript, highlighting your novelty, and have an appealing title. And overstating your impact and extrapolating your results would be more damaging. So don't extrapolate beyond what is required, trying to overstate that, yes, I have found this. So this is something, a path-breaking research which I have done. So you need not overstate or extrapolate. If it is really path-breaking, it will be highlighted and it will definitely be published in that journal. So let us look into the best ways to avoid desk rejection. You must understand that avoiding desk rejection is vital, because once it crosses the desk and reaches the peer review, you have a 40% chance of publication. That is pretty huge. And you must know that the big publishers, journal publishers like Elsevier, they have a rejection rate of 30 to 50%. So don't get dejected, as I told you. So what you can do is edit or at least proofread your English. And 70% of the journal submissions are from non-native speakers of English. And this problem can be solved by good proofreading. Publication quality English does not mean having a very high-fi or a high-flown English. It just means that using the right words, being correct in spelling, all these softwares are now available also. You can just type in Microsoft, and then that itself will detect the grammatical and the spelling mistakes, and it will correct it. And use active rather than passive tenses. Make sure the manuscript has a relevant title. As I told you, it should be a short, descriptive, and a catchy title. And you must give insight into the study methodology and design in the title itself. For example, if you are doing a randomized controlled trial, it is very important to write it in that it is a randomized controlled trial in the heading. And sometimes you can also add the type of blinding which is done, single blinded, double blinded. So all these things are very important. And use the keywords from the scope of the journal in the manuscript title. So that will have greater chances of acceptance. Now, coming to abstract. After the title comes the abstract. The abstract must be concise, and all essential information which is there in your main manuscript should be there in the abstract. It should be high level with compelling summary of the article, and it should highlight novel information with both positive and negative findings. An abstract should be in right structure. Now, structured abstracts are generally submitted for research article, and unstructured abstracts are submitted for case reports. So you must remember that whenever you are submitting a research article, please make a structured abstract. And some journals use a summary format instead of an abstract. So you must see what the journal wants. And nowadays, a graphical abstract is also coming up in some journals. And you must have some novel or innovative aspect to highlight, and always use the current research things which are very prevalent in the current times to cite what is novel in you and how your novelty can change what is the pre-existing practice. And use recent citations as much as possible, and do not include references in the abstract. Content and structure to fit the journal scope. Mostly everyone follows the IMRAT style. IMRAT stands for Introduction, Material and Methods, Results and Discussion. And of course, it also includes conclusion and abstract as well. And ethics statement, funding disclosures, acknowledgement, copyright, all these things are very important. Most journals, they have a format in which you must fill a statement, a funding statement or a disclosure that your study has been funded by whom, or it has not been funded. And you must also submit a copyright separately signed by all the authors before submission. If these are not submitted, then the journal has every right to reject your article. So you must prove that you're worthy of your submission by being very complete and concise. So that is actually very, very important. Good and relevant literature review, and make the life easier for journal editors. This is the same which we tell all the students in the Viva also. Make the life easier for the examiner. So be simple and at the same time be concise and up to the mark. The hypothesis which you suggest must be very clear. There should be no ambiguity in that. It should have an acceptable methodology and up-to-date approach and software. Clear figures and captions. This I previously also highlighted. The pictures, the diagrams, and all the tables, all these things should be clear. And the caption for each and every table or figure should match the figure and the table which is there in the submission. The sources of the figures must be appropriately cited, and appendix and supplementary information can also be used if the data is very huge. Right? So this is also important. Comprehensive referencing and right formatting. Now, each and every journal has a different format for references. Mostly they use Vancouver style, but other formats are also there. And you must look into the journal guidelines to know which reference format they want. Now, this is actually, very, very important, because different journals, Indian journals, they have a different format. The Western journals, they form a different format of asking the references. Now, if you get rejected, don't feel dejected. So what you can do, what are the remedies? Improve upon the cover letter. Follow the journal's advice. Sometimes they give the reasons for rejection, that this is the reason why we have rejected. And treat the rejection as your fault and not the fault of the journal. And that doesn't mean you go into a shell and say, oh, okay, no, I will not publish anymore. So what you can do is watch out for sales pitch and improve the English language editing, find another target journal, improvise the title and abstract, and follow the word count. Now, this is very, very important. Each and every journal has a set word count for each and every type of article which is submitted. For example, let us say that 1,000 words is a set limit for, let us say, a case report. 1,500 is the word limit, and 1,000 words for a letter to editor, and 3,000 words, let us say, for a review article or a research article. So you need to stick to the word count. If the word count is higher, then the journal will reject. This has personally happened to me. So once I had, in the initial days, I had submitted without, in fact, being very careful about the word limit. The word limit did not exceed much. It exceeded by, I think, by around 100 words or so. The journal immediately rejected my article. And I got to know very late why it got rejected. So it is a learning process. It is a continuous learning process. And just to summarize my talk, the 10 tips to prevent desk rejection: follow journal domain and guidelines. Weak or insufficient contribution causes desk rejection, so please avoid them. Pages of academic journal are a valuable commodity with intense competition. Please remember that. Don't underestimate the work of editors and reviewers. They are sparing their precious time in reading your research and putting it to publish. So that is something, a great job with these people are doing. So please, and these journals are very high impact journals, having let us say, a huge audience. So we need to be respectful of their requirements. Avoid underdeveloped manuscripts or incomplete manuscripts. Language, avoid declarative language. Use relevant references and methods and methodology. Description should be adequate with appropriate data analysis and explanation of the impact of the findings. You see, explanation of the impact of the findings is very important. What happens is that we just collect the data and then we say that, oh, 100 people developed tuberculosis at the end of the study. But we don't say that what is the impact of those 100 patients developing tuberculosis. Is it because that it is a closed community? Is it because that proper respiratory hygiene was not followed? Is it because of something else, low immunity? So those kind of impact of those findings is very important. Evaluation and repeated checking. Anonymity. Now what happens is that whenever you submit, you do not write your author details in the manuscript file. This is important to avoid bias and to maintain confidentiality. And this is also important to not put undue pressure on the peer reviewers. For example, a big name in publishing articles is there. So any reviewer would be really, really scared to reject that person's article. So we need to be very careful in avoiding bias and to maintain the confidentiality. And of course, follow the formats of the tables, the current font sizes. Now, font sizes is also important. It should be the Times Roman with 12 font size, the alignment and the line spacing as per journal requirements. So do not use your own imagination for these things. Please follow what the journal wants. So this is just a gist of what the submission checklist for IJCA journal by our own publishing house. One author is designated as corresponding author with complete contact details. Please check the aims and scope of the journal and approve the content of the submitted manuscript by all the authors. Use MS Word template to prepare the manuscript and spelling and grammar check. Ensure authorship criteria, research and publications, ethics, manuscript preparation, copyright, formats, figures, data, and reference format. And upload all necessary files. Now, this is very important. Most of these journals, they want the figures and the photos as a separate entry, as a separate uploading, and those are not there in the main manuscript file. So please do not include them in the main manuscript file. Upload it separately as the journal wants. And thank you very much. Happy publishing. Now, this is generally the sequence of events which is followed for assessing a paper. You submit, it is initially checked, the editor views and the editorial assessment is done. And if it does not follow the journal guidelines, it is desk rejected. So this is where we need to carefully understand and avoid desk rejection, and then it is referred to the referees and peer reviewers. And then when the peer reviewers give their suggestions and their decisions, the final decisions taken by the editorial board, and then the decision is conveyed to the authors. So this is what is the main sequence of events. And there are, of course, this is just a parody. They have just, given the 10 days to get your paper rejected. So if you want to get your paper rejected, you ignore the author guidelines, you write unsupported conclusions, you skip the spelling check, you stick to the deficient study design and do not upload the tables. I mean, this is just to make sure that you don't do these things I have highlighted. So thank you very, very much. I really, really thank all the organizers for this wonderful opportunity. Ms. Nikita ma'am, Dr. Lalit Jha sir, and all the panelists and moderators and the esteemed faculty and the delegates and all the listeners. I mean, in fact, I really enjoy coming to these kind of workshops. They are really, really informative and educative. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful presentation. Ma'am's
Thank you.
presentation is definitely an eye-opener for all of us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
So the questions, I saw just one question here. Ma'am, shall I take the questions?
Before you take the question.
As you say, sir, as you say.
All right, no, just one comment.
Yes, sir, sorry.
Splendid presentation.
Yes.
And
Thank you, sir.
I'm happily surprised to see that how you have made it the topic of your presentation just to pass on the information that what should be the various qualities of a good write-up.
Right.
So a splendid work. I
Thank
must
you, sir.
congratulate you. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Now you can go ahead with your questions.
Pallavi ma'am and Dr. Lalit, if anything you want to say.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I
you
would
have
like to thank,
covered all the topic.
I would like to thank you, Dr. Uma, for such excellent tips. Rejection. And
you, ma'am.
you have covered, in nutshell, you covered all the points which are to be taken into consideration at the time of manuscript submission. So I hope these tips would be helpful for all the young researchers who are writing their manuscripts and are hoping to get it published in a good journals. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nice seeing you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Any more questions? Can you please see in the question answer box if you want?
Yes, yes, please. I
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
I'm unable to see.
Okay, till the time that you are trying
Ma'am,
to
actually,
locate
I'm
the
unable
questions.
to. Just a minute. Yeah. Yeah. So regarding the number of references, it depends upon the journal. So let us say if there is an anesthesia journal and if you are submitting a letter to editor. So a maximum of 5 references is what is generally accepted. And if you are submitting a case report, a maximum of 10 references. And if you're submitting a research article, a maximum of, let us say 20 to 30 references, not more than that. And regarding the example of each format, you see all these things are available on the internet. Most of the Indian journals, they want a Vancouver style. And most of the Western journals, they want a different style. So these stylings are, I think, will be dealt with separately in a different lecture of the referencing format. But in just, I will tell you that what these things they say is that the sequence of writing the author, the year of publication, the volume of the journal, the issue of the journal, the page number, all these things differ in these formats. It is basically citing the work of someone through different formats which are laid down in standard ways in different areas. So different journals follow different ones. For example, most of the Indian journals, they follow the Vancouver style. So, and even in our thesis writing, we say you write in Vancouver style. So that is what. If anyone wants to.
I have a question for you. Suppose you get an article which is not appropriate. There is nothing new and you want to reject it. So would you do the full review after that you will reject, or you will simply write the article is not appropriate. Because many authors want to know the cause of the rejection, and simply writing not per the guidelines or it is not appropriate is quite heartening for them. So what will you do in such a
Yes.
scenario?
Yes, you are absolutely right. It is very disheartening to get a desk rejection. It seems as if a hammer has been thrown on your head after all the hard work. So actually, the main problem is most of the editors and the editorial board people are already bombarded with a lot of articles.
Exactly.
So they are unable to give a lot of time in completely giving a detailed explanation of why they are rejecting it, and to improve upon the article so that the author comes back to the journal and submits. So this can be added as an extra feature in some journals, especially if you want to attract the authors more, because you see, you need to be author friendly to be popular in the field of publishing. So if you want to be author friendly, so what you can do is this feature can be added as a detailed explanation as to why you want to reject and what are the ways in which you can come back to the same journal. In fact, I have had a personal experience with a journal named Trends in Anesthesia and Critical Care. So what happened was that we had submitted an article and there were certain issues, and they in fact gave an extensive review of what were the problems in our submission, and they also gave us an opportunity to resubmit if we are ready to do the corrections.
But again, the question remains the same. What the reviewer will get after rejecting an article with such an extensive review? You know, controversial question. We had the question yesterday also and today also. What the reviewer will get it? He has to reject it. Okay, he and she has decided. But should he or she should write a detailed review or just like plain write?
No, they have to write. They have to write because
Yes.
we should know why it is rejected. Otherwise, we will never improve upon ourselves.
In that case, authors have the privilege. They can write to the journal and they can ask for the detailed review.
Yes.
And if the author wants a detailed review, then the reviewer has to give the on what grounds the article was rejected. It's the author's.
Yes.
I'll just add to it. So Dr. Lalit, what you asked is a very good question. So in these talks, like from me and Dr. Uma, like we talked about what authors should be doing, what they should not be doing. I think your question brings a different side of the coin. What are the responsibilities of the reviewers and editors? And I 100% agree with you. And even I'm an author too. I'm a reviewer and editor, but firstly, I'm an author. So if somebody just rejects my paper without giving me a reason, yes, I'm not going to be happy about it. Same goes with everybody. So I think for any one of us, like who also reviews or edit papers, it's our moral responsibility to give a reason that, hey, why we are rejecting this paper. Hey, if it's not a good fit for this journal, so if I'm like reviewing for a big publisher, I always give recommendations to the authors personally that, hey, publisher has this journal, your paper might be a good fit there. If you choose, it can be transferred there. So at least authors know, okay, we submitted to a journal and our manuscript does not fit the aims and goals. Or, hey, I detected, like I saw some report being a reviewer, you like did nothing novel. So I cannot take it, a journal is too big or too small. Hey, it's a novel study. So my ideology, that's from my personal experiences, is as reviewer and editors, whatever criticism we provide, it should be a constructive criticism, give the opportunity to improve the quality of that paper rather than just shooting it down and put it in a gutter. No, I do not care. I think that's a wrong attitude.
Perfect.
And what Dr. Uma also said, like as editors and reviewers, we get always bombarded with lot of requests to review and edit, and it's not possible to go through all of them. So she said like a very key point in her talk that it's very important to make your title attractive, and she used the example of randomized control trials. So I'm assuming most of the audiences here are medical professionals. So whenever you do a clinical study, it's very important to emphasize in your study that, hey, if the study is a multi-center trial, do include the word multi-center in your title. If it's a randomized or non-randomized, say that. If it's open label, single blind, double blinded, say that. If it's a controlled or non-controlled, do say that, because these kind of the wordings, if I'm getting like 50 requests to review, and if I see like 5 review articles, and then I see one clinical trial saying multi-center randomized double-blinded controlled study, I will automatically be more inclined to go for that study over review articles, and other I would be saying, no, send it to somebody, I'm occupied. So I think having an attractive title also attracts the reviewers to accept your manuscript and want them to read it. And eventually maybe they'll give you a good constructive criticism if they see, oh, this is like, and I have worked on so many manuscripts myself as a reviewer. If I see, okay, this is a very interesting manuscript, writing is poor, data is really good, audiences should know it. So I never reject those manuscripts. I really try to work with the authors, give them as many comments as I can. So I tell them like, hey, change this to this, change this to this. Now it makes more sense. You have good data. Don't do injustice to your work. Sometimes you have to go that one extra mile to help the authors as well and appreciate the good work they have done. We don't expect everybody to be Shakespeare. That's how I put it. We're writing 9 short English novels.
Yeah, it's a separate. You have taken
In
a
fact,
separate lecture on that.
Shakespeare's comment, even Shakespeare has taken his work from others.
Yes. And I did not want it to quote that. I was like, yeah, he's responsible for plagiarism too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Nikita,
So
it's time for the plaque. Thank you, plaque, for both the
plaque of appreciation. Yes. So, thank you so much for now speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So let our claps make up for the music.
Thank you.
There, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sir, today we had made that musical, but something is in technical problem. So that music part is not taken by this Zoom today. So sorry for that, but we can send you that plaque to your digital plaque to your mobiles. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Thank you.
So now I like to request Dr. Jha sir to conclude the session for peer reviewer training, and then next month I am just announcing after Dr. Jha sir's conclusion. Over to
I
you,
think
sir.
if I can remember correctly, over past 3 years, these 2 days, 4 presentations have been really excellent. And as far as peer reviewing is concerned, no corner has been left untouched. And if I can say, Dr. Lalit is the master of the art of this peer review, and he has been excellent in his presentation. Yesterday, Dr. Hannah was also deliberating on all the points of concern, and today these Dr. Assis and Dr. Uma, they have done fair justice. So I don't think there will be any doubt about what comes under the purview of this and how your conscience also should behave. So with these words, I would like once again to congratulate all these speakers and the organizers for the excellent coordinated effort. I even learned that while you were preparing your presentations, the two presenters, they discussed among themselves so that there will be no duplication. And in fact, there were no duplications. Well, if I was present physically and all of you were there, I would have liked to give standing ovation to Dr. Lalit. Dr. Lalit. For his
Thank you so much, sir. I am
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. So spirited we all have been.
Thank you, sir. This is the researchers publication workshop for this year, and we had successfully completed the peer reviewer training today and yesterday. The good sessions and fruitful sessions are completed. So next is author trainings, and this is on 14th and 15th of October next month, and followed by editors training. It is in November 11th and 12th November. So we look for your presence for this feast of knowledge about research publication. And along with that, I have one more announcement. After this session, you will get an auto-generated feedback form on your screen. So you are requested to please fill that feedback form and download your e-certificate for the participation. Thank you all. Thank you all. Then. Have a great day.
Today we
Thank
have
you.
Vishwakarma Puja also. Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I was just saying thank you.
Okay. So today also we are 4 minutes within the time range.
Oh, yes. So you
We
earned
are
something.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pooja, thank
ma'am.
you. Yeah,
Thank you so
definitely
much.
there is some glitches on the internet today, but you did well. And
Thank you so much, ma'am.
congratulations to all of you. Well presented. Thanks you all. Have a great time ahead.
Thank
Nikita
you.
has
Thank you.
only this
And,
morning told me that there will be a physical meeting very soon. Right.
Yeah.
So-
So kind of you, sir, for reminding me. One more and very much important announcement is this, that we soon come together for a physical meet known as editors meet. In this end of this year or in the January. So we're definitely, I will once our organizing team will decided all the dates and details, I will share with all of you, and we look forward for having your all editors, reviewers, and other members presence in that. Dr. Savita ma'am is here, but I guess she is not able to talk this time because she said in the message box that she is driving. So the whole program is prepared under the guidance of Dr. Savita Yograj madam. So thank you ma'am, and every one of you, thanks you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have stopped. I really want to appreciate because I've stopped driving, parked my car. It was really a wonderful. Uma ma'am and Ashim sir, wonderful. I really wanted to join. It was wonderful presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
It
so
was
much.
really question and answer session, and Uma ma'am cleared so many doubts and every doubts. Everybody, chairpersons, moderators, they were wonderfully done. And thank you. I especially parked my car. See, you have stopped my car.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you for the kind.
You have designed the whole course so well, not only for
Yes.
these 2 days, rather for the coming months
Yeah.
also.
Sir, all under your chairpersonship and Lalit sir support and Nikita ma'am and Rakesh sir really well, and Amina ma'am, wonderful. I'm really so honored, feeling so honored to be here as in the panelists. It's really wonderful. Thank you once again.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, Dr. Pallavi ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Hannah ma'am, Dr. Asim sir, Lalit sir, Uma madam, Jha sir. Thanks you all. Have a great time.